All right, let's jump right in. We're going to peel back the curtain on the elements that literally power our modern world. And you'll see they come with some pretty big hidden costs. Okay, so let's start with something you probably have in your hand or on your desk right now. Your phone, your laptop. I mean, these aren't just gadgets anymore, are they? They're basically how we live. But have you ever really thought about what's inside them that makes all the magic happen? And it's not just our personal tech. We're all looking towards this cleaner, greener future. And a huge part of that is renewable energy. You see these giant wind turbines. Well, to get them to spin and create power so efficiently, they need magnets. And not just any magnets, but incredibly powerful ones. It's the same story with the cars we drive. Electric vehicles are popping up everywhere, and they're a massive step in getting us off of fossil fuels for good. So, what's the deal here? What's the magical ingredient that connects all of this? Your phone, a massive wind turbine, an electric car? What on earth do they all have in common? Well, the answer is a group of 17 pretty amazing elements. They're kind of this secret ingredient, the unsung heroes of our high-tech world. So let's dive in and see what they're all about. Okay, here they are. These are the rare earth elements, or REEs for short. And yeah, when they're all processed, they might just look like some boring old powders. But don't let that fool you. Their properties are absolutely incredible. So technically speaking, we're talking about 17 specific elements on the periodic table. But what makes them so special? It's all about their unique superpowers. Their magnetic strength, for example, is off the charts. It allows us to make the world's most powerful, tiniest magnets. Think about the little motor that makes your phone vibrate. That's them. And the giant motors that power an EV, that's them too. Then there are their optical properties. They're the reason the colors on your screen are so bright and vivid. And they're also amazing catalysts, which means they can supercharge chemical reactions. That's a total game changer for all kinds of industries. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Take a look at this chart. You'd think most of these elements end up in our phones and gadgets, right? Nope. A whopping 75% of them are used as catalysts. And get this, one of their biggest jobs is helping to refine crude oil into gasoline. How wild is that? The very same elements we absolutely need for our green energy future are also a critical part of the fossil fuel industry we're trying to move away from. Kind of ironic, huh? All right, this leads us to something a lot of people get wrong about these things. And honestly, it's all because of their name. See, the name rare earths is super misleading. They aren't actually rare like gold or platinum are. In fact, some of them are more common in the Earth's crust than copper or lead. So why the name? Well, it's because they're almost never found clumped together in a nice, easy-to-mine deposit. They're scattered all over the place, mixed in with other rocks and minerals. The real challenge, the thing that makes them rare, is separating them from everything else. It's like trying to get a few grains of sugar out of a giant bag of sand. It's a huge, expensive, and difficult chemical process. And as you can probably guess, that incredibly difficult extraction process, well, it comes at a price, a really, really big environmental price. Okay, get ready for this, because the numbers are just staggering. For every 1 ton, just 1 ton of useful rare earth elements you get, the process creates around 2,000 tons of waste. And we're not talking about harmless dirt here. We're talking about toxic waste, full of heavy metals, acid, and because of the weird geology where these things are found, sometimes you even get a ton of radioactive waste too. It's just mind-boggling. Let's look at how this actually works on the ground. In southern China, where a lot of the world's rare earths come from, a common technique is basically to strip mine the land. They remove all the topsoil, then they pump the hillsides full of this chemical soup, things like ammonium sulfate and ammonium chloride. This mixture dissolves the rare earths so they can be collected, but it absolutely devastates the land, poisoning the soil and the groundwater with all sorts of nasty stuff like cadmium and lead. And the damage doesn't stop there. This refinery here shows you the next step. After they've leached the elements from the ground, they have to be processed. And for every ton of rare earths they refine, they can release thousands of cubic meters of toxic gas, stuff filled with corrosive acids like sulfuric and hydrofluoric acid. I mean, look at that scale. And this isn't the kind of mess you can just clean up in a year or two. We're talking about long-term, maybe even permanent damage. Local officials on the ground in these areas are saying it could take 50 to 100 years for the environment to recover, if it ever fully recovers. The cost for the people who live there has been just enormous. How enormous? Try $5.5 billion. That's the number China's own government put on the cleanup bill for just one single region, southern Jiangxi. Think about that. That's often more money than they even made selling the minerals in the first place. So you've got this massive environmental problem, right? But it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's tied directly to a huge geopolitical headache for the rest of the world. Here's the thing, for a long, long time, one country has basically had a monopoly on these materials. Back in 2019, China was supplying something like 90% of the entire world's demand. That means almost every high-tech industry on the planet, from smartphones to defense systems, was completely dependent on a single supply chain. And as you can imagine, when trade tensions flare up, that dependency becomes a massive risk. So now there's this global scramble going on. Countries like the US, Australia, and others are rushing to open their own mines and processing plants. But here's the billion-dollar question. Can anyone figure out how to do this without just repeating the same environmental catastrophe all over again? So, is there a better way? Is there a cleaner path forward? Well, the most exciting ideas aren't about digging more holes in the ground. They're about looking somewhere else entirely. The big idea is what's called a circular economy. It's a total shift in how we think about stuff. Instead of the old take, make, and throw away model, we start looking at all our old electronics, our mountains of e-waste, as a resource. We can treat our junk drawers and landfills like urban mines. And what's really cool is that a lot of this e-waste has a higher concentration of these precious elements than the rocks we're digging out of the earth. Okay, so this sounds great, but it's not easy. Not by a long shot. Trying to pull out a few milligrams of one element from a super complex circuit board, it's like trying to unscramble an egg. Right now, it's often more expensive than just digging it up. But this is where the really critical research is happening. If we can crack the code on how to recycle this stuff efficiently, it changes everything. It helps solve the environmental problem and the risky geopolitical problem all at once. So that leaves us with a pretty tough question to chew on, doesn't it? All our amazing technology, from the phones in our pockets to the green energy we're counting on to save the planet, it all promises this clean, bright future. But what does it mean if the very path we're taking to get there is, itself, anything but clean? If you found this deep dive valuable, do us a favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. What other hidden costs of our modern world should we look into next?